Ladies and gentlemen, guests, please stand. Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Dame Cindy Kero, Governor-General of New Zealand, and Dr. Richard Davis.
E hōnore he kororia he maungā romo ki runga ki te mata o te whenua. E whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Arohaina ngā taina me ngā tuakana e noho nei i rungi te whakaaro kotahi pai pai.
Please be seated.
E ngā mana e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnei aku mihi ki a koutou. Nau mai hara mai ki te whare kāwana tēnei. Kia ora mai tātou katoa. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to Government House today for the investiture ceremony. I'd like to specifically acknowledge Ms. Rachel Hayward, Deputy Secretary of Cabinet, Mr. David Gard, Region Manager for Fire and Emergency, Mr. Joe Harawira, Government House Kaumātua, Mrs. Rānui Rangarimu, Kuia. Hosting investiture ceremonies is one of the most important duties that I perform on behalf of Her Majesty, the Queen of New Zealand. It's very special to bring together such an extraordinary group of New Zealanders. On behalf of all New Zealanders, I extend my sincerest thanks to you for your contributions. After each recipient is honoured, I invite you all to join with me in congratulating them. Ms. Tanya Macleod will now summon the recipients and read their citations.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Neil Richardson of Hamilton for services to business and philanthropy. Neil Richardson was independent chair of the Kiwifruit Industry Strategy Project. He's a member of Te Puna Whakaronui Thought Leaders Forum and the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise Advisors Board. He chaired Ag Research and the Foundation for Research, Science and Technology, and is a past director of Well Energy. He was Group Managing Director of the Gallagher Group. He co-owned and chaired New Zealand Home Loans. He has had a long involvement with the not-for-profit sector and has been an investor, director and mentor to technology startup entrepreneurs. He's chair of Momentum Foundation Waikato and a trustee of Te Awa River Ride Trust. Mr. Richardson is an adjunct professor at Waikato Management School and chairs the University of Waikato Fundraising Committee for the Performing Arts Centre. Mr. Neil Richardson, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Ms. Allison Cadman of Wellington, for services to housing and the community. Allison Cadman was a Community Development Advisor for Wellington City Council before assuming the position of Director of the Wellington Housing Trust. She led the transformation of the Wellington Housing Trust from a small charity with a few homes to Dwell Housing Trust, a social enterprise that manages more than 100 tenancies. As Chief Executive of Dwell Housing Trust, she's increased the organization's capability. She was a National Council member of Community Housing Aotearoa, including time as co-chair. She has set up several housing forums and mentors other community housing professionals. She has given numerous presentations, written several articles, and co-authored a chapter of Homes People Can Afford, How to Improve Housing in New Zealand. Ms. Cadman is a trustee of Newtown Ethical Lending Trust. Ms. Allison Cadman, please come forward. Ms. Rosemary Macleod of Wellington for services to journalism and television. Rosemary Macleod has contributed to New Zealand media since the 1970s as a journalist, columnist, cartoonist, and social historian. Her cartoons chronicled and interpreted the changing zeitgeist of New Zealand society. Her investigative and long-form journalism for North and South magazine saw her win 5 Qantas Feature Writer of the Year awards. She's one of New Zealand's first nationally published female cartoonists and the first woman to write a television sitcom in addition to writing drama series. She was a member of the Broadcasting Standards Authority and a judge for the Newspaper Publishers Association Awards and Movie Fest. She published an award-winning history of New Zealand women's textiles, Thrift to Fantasy, and novel A Girl Like I. Ms. Macleod is a columnist for Stuff and for Woman magazine. Ms. Rosemary Macleod, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Balihack of New Plymouth, for services to education governance. Balihack has been principal of 3 secondary schools and the National College of the Cook Islands. He has contributed to Ministry of Education advisory policy groups, supported and mentored other principals, and written 2 books on secondary schools. He was on the National Executive of the Post-Primary Teachers Association and was president of the Secondary Principals Association of New Zealand. He was Deputy Chief Executive of the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. He led an independent task force to review the governance, management, and administration of the New Zealand compulsory schooling system. Mr. Huck is a board member of Ako Matatupu Teach First New Zealand and the Toy Foundation. Mr. Balihack, please come forward. Ms. Tanya Heke of Wellington for services to the arts and Māori. Tanya Heke is director of Te Kura Toi Whakari New Zealand Drama School. She's worked as a program manager for Takirua and exhibition manager with Te Papa Tongarewa Museum of New Zealand. She oversaw New Zealand's participation at the Venice Biennale for Creative New Zealand. She curated New Zealand's cultural program as the country of honour at the Frankfurt Book Fair and managed the New Zealand delegation at the Festival of Pacific Arts in Guam. She co-founded Hapai Productions, a Māori theatre company based in Wellington. Ms. Heke has acted in films including Number 2, Waru, and Cousins, and theatre productions The Prophet, Haruru Mai, and Doubt. Ms. Tanya Heke, please come forward. Mrs. Marilyn Moffat of Wellington for services to Surf Lifesaving. Marilyn Moffat is president of Surf Lifesaving New Zealand. She has held almost every position at the Lyall Bay Surf Lifesaving Club Committee, including patrol captain, coach, instructor, team manager, treasurer, and chair. With Wellington Surf Lifesaving, she was treasurer, a board member, team manager, delegate to the national body, and a national championship organizing committee member. She has won 3 national titles and 4 world championships, and was a member of the first women's surfboat crew in New Zealand. Mrs. Moffat has played a key role as chair and chief fundraiser in driving delivery of the new Lyall Bay Clubhouse. Mrs. Marilyn Moffat, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, the late Mrs. Barbara Cameron of Fielding for services to the community and local government. Barbara Cameron, Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa, Te Whānau a Apanui, was a councillor with Manawatu District Council for many years. She was a Mid-Central DHB board member and a trustee of Aroha Nui Hospice Trust and Eastern and Central Community Trust. She was a Sport Manawatu board member. She was a teacher of the deaf and deputy principal of St. Dominic's School for the Deaf, Fielding. She was employed as a health educator with Palmerston North Public Health Unit. She was a member and former president of Makino Rotary. Mrs. Cameron served on Palmerston North Boys High School Board of Trustees. The late Mrs. Barbara Cameron's insignia will be received by Baden Cameron. Please come forward. Mrs. Jinnah Chaffee Opori of Ruatoria for services to Māori. Jinnah Chaffee Opori is a nurse focusing on Māori health education, promoting topics such as puberty education in Tairawhiti schools. She's been the New Zealand Nurses Organisation delegate for Ngāti Porou Hauora. She volunteers for Comet Swimming Club as a referee and timekeeper. She coached children with Ruatoria Swimming Club. She supported kapahaka groups and travelled with the elders to support the kaupapa. She was instrumental in leading families to gather for the first puna reo in Ngāti Porou and organising inter-marae sports. Mrs. Chaffee Opori was treasurer, then vice president, of Ngāti Uipohatu Māori Women's Welfare League. Mrs. Jinnah Chaffee Opori, please come forward. Ms. Carol Frost of Dunedin for services to the homeless and prisoner rehabilitation. Carol Frost is Operations Director for the Dunedin Night Shelter Trust. She manages both the Night Shelter and Phoenix Lodge, a transitional housing facility for ex-prisoners. She has set up systems and ways of working that are helpful, welcoming, and respectful of clients. She gathers donations of clothing and household necessities for those moving into flats or boarding houses. She's worked to ensure the shelter's financial stability and developed a strong knowledge of challenges faced by clients. She organizes the annual Night Shelter Street Appeal. Ms. Frost previously worked for the Prisoners' Aid and Rehabilitation Society in Dunedin. Ms. Carol Frost, please come forward. Mrs. Taulopoul Oliver of Blenheim for services to the Pacific community. Taulopoul Oliver has helped Pacific migrant workers and their families settle into the Marlborough region, providing translation and establishing a weekly gathering. She helped launch the first Marlborough Polyfest. She represented the Samoan community on the board of Marlborough REAP. She is a community law Marlborough board member. She has supported Pacific individuals in trouble with the law and worked with police to educate migrants on life in New Zealand. She was a founding member of EFKS Aonga Amata Blenheim Playgroup and is a board member of Marlborough Pacific Trust. Mrs. Oliver is involved with St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. Mrs. Taulopoul Oliver, please come forward. Mrs. Nolane Watson of Cromwell for services to the community. Nolane Watson was a founding member and secretary of Abbeyfield Wakatipu Incorporated, providing purpose-built affordable housing for older people. She's a member of Old Cromwell Incorporated, which promotes restoration and use of historic buildings, and the Cromwell Community Welfare Trust, which funds and organizes the Cromwell Food Bank. She is sole organizer of the Trust's fortnightly Care and Friendship Days for the elderly. She manages and rosters the drivers for Meals on Wheels. She has been the secretary and licensed lay preacher with St. Andrew's Church, Cromwell. Mrs. Watson is People's Warden for the Upper Clutha Anglican Parish. Mrs. Nolane Watson, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture has concluded.
New Zealand's honours system is our highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces those things that make our society better: service, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of excellence. To our recipients, it has been a privilege to hear your stories. You have each used your talents and abilities to improve the lives of your fellow New Zealanders. In doing so, you embody the spirit of the whakatauki, whaia te iti kahurangi, ki te tōhoi koe me he maunga teitei. Seek the treasure that you value most dearly. If you bow your head, let it be to a lofty mountain. I urge recipients to wear your insignia with pride at every opportunity, knowing that you inspire others by doing so. On behalf of the Queen of New Zealand and all New Zealanders, I congratulate you on your achievements, and I thank you once again for your service to our country. Kia ora mai, huihu mai tātou. You'll see on the back of your program the words for the National Anthem in Te Reo Māori and in English. I now invite you to stand with me and to sing the National Anthem.